Hey folks, we are back at Nikki T Live. I'm your host, Nick Taylor, and today I'm hanging out with Graham the Dev, also known by many other names potentially. I don't know. I'll let Graham go from there. But for folks who might not know who you are, Graham, maybe just give a little bit about yourself, how you got into tech, if that's something of interest to you, and then yeah, we'll go from there.
Oh, this is the problem with asking someone old in tech how they got into tech. It's many moons ago. Got to try and remember. No, it's really easy how I got into tech. I owned an estate agency and I was playing around with macros in Excel. And then I owned the estate agency in 2008, 2009, which for anyone who knows the history is not a good time to own an estate agency. So that didn't last very
Okay.
long. But then the macro thing stuck with me. I was like, oh, this is really useful. And then I was like, okay, how do you actually do real programs? And from there, I went into
Okay.
VB.net, logical progression from VBA,
Yeah, yeah.
built Windows applications, and then obviously realized that the web was the way forward and moved into web after about 4 or 5 years. And I've been there ever since.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I did some VBA. I've done Visual Basic 6 and I dabbled in some VB.net. I'm a little long in the tooth as well. So it's yeah, I did a lot of, I'd say like two-thirds of my career was like ASP, ASP.NET, C Sharp, and then like ASP.NET MVC. And then I kind of just transitioned over to, at the time at least, like Microsoft wasn't really considered an open source company. And I was really interested in open source. So, you know, I wanted to kind of pursue that. So I ended up, and I was always a fan of JavaScript. I love the web, CSS, and like, as you probably know too, making your first page with font tags and like marquees and comics IMS, all that fun stuff. Uh, yeah,
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 yeah. I wish I'd kept it for posterity because I can't even remember what it looked like, but it was a mess. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, hey Jason, how's it going, man? Yeah, but it's yeah, like you, I think I just fell in love with the web. I think the thing that still gets me is how instant you can see something you build. Like back in the day, it was obviously just FTP it or something, but here now, whether it's Netlify, Vercel, GitHub Pages, whatever, you just push it up and you see your work pretty instantly. And there's something I find super satisfying about that. Like even though I've been in the game for a long time, it's still I find it super cool.
Yeah, I think the thing that did it for me was responsive web design because that was the thing that was up and coming at the time. It really wasn't everywhere like
Yeah,
it is now. And after spending many hours trying to make an application work in Windows at different screen sizes, because back then it was like Windows Forms, WPF
yeah,
was just coming into the fray at that point. So yeah, it was one of those of I was like, "Oh, it can work on anything. I like it. I
yeah,
like it a lot." And there was promise of progressive web apps, which, well, App
yeah,
Cache at the time, and that was like, "Oh, it's gonna work offline as well," but we've never quite got there properly because it's a
yeah,
mess. But,
yeah.
most of
No,
it works really well.
yeah, there's definitely use cases for PWAs, but you know, there's still a lot of it's still a difficult problem when you're updating something and then you lose a connection. Like I remember one place I worked at, we were using CouchDB and they had this implementation of on the client side where it could persist it called PouchDB and then it could sync it later on if things were disconnected. But it's
It's never
yeah, yeah,
quite as good.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say I love the intro, but I do want you to shamelessly plug that Graham is actually looking for his next role. And what are you kind of interested in, or what do you want to tackle next in terms of your next role?
I really wanna go into DevRel. So
Okay.
I've done marketing, I've run my own business for a while, I've done all the development stuff. It seems like a logical step for me because I like doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
And one of the few things I will say I think I am good at, because I don't normally say I'm good at anything, is networking with people and, building relationships. And so
Yeah.
DevRel seems like a logical progression. Um, but we'll see. I've got a few things in the pipeline, but still at this exact moment a free agent.
Cool. 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 Yeah, you're getting some love in the chat here. Alex is saying, been following Graham for a while. Great to finally see him on a stream. That's the other thing I'll mention. Graham has recently started streaming on Twitch, so go give him a follow over there as well. I've dropped links to places you can find him, but I'll just drop it again because I think it's already been lost in the chat. Um, yeah, so there's that, and yeah, so you know, I totally feel you for the DevRel stuff. I feel like that's something I'm going to do at some point as well too. Like it just like you said, it feels like a natural progression, you know. But oh, hey, Yuri's here too. Hey, Yuri. Um, yeah, and shout out to Yuri. You just landed a DevRel job at Supabase, I believe. Yuri, is that right?
She has, and Superbase rejected my application for another role there. So but bitter, Yuri,
Uh,
I'm bitter.
okay, okay. It's all the dirty laundry's coming out on stream here. Just let it out. Let it out. Let
Hey,
it
you invited me
out.
on. You knew it was going to get spicy at some point. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Yuri said that you had
exactly.
to pick, and that's true. Yeah, I'd have picked you too, Yuri. To be fair.
Cool, cool, cool. So, like on all the streams I do, we definitely go on tangents, but the main thing we wanted to talk about today, for now at least, is accessibility. This is something I know you've done quite a bit of. When I used to work at Dev2, you were always contributing there, whether that was through conversations or I believe you contributed some PRs too. I can't remember. It's been so long, but
Very rare am I the PR person. Maybe the issue person.
okay, yeah.
I'm the one to cause trouble. I let other people tidy up the mess. That's the way I tend to work.
Yeah, yeah. And it's definitely appreciated, like and it's good to be critical about these things. And I think it's something that is still neglected. I'm not doing front end at the moment. I feel like I'm doing middle end at the moment at Netlify, but which we don't need to get into. But I was leading front end at Dev 2 before, and like accessibility was something I advocated for over there. I was privileged enough to get to work with Marcy Sutton for about a month and a half, and then that kickstarted a whole initiative where we got buy-in from my head of engineering at the time, and and so it's something that everybody I know that works in this space, and I'm sure you can speak to this. It's a bit of a battle.
Oh, there's so many things to unpack there. So first of all, praise where it's due. The accessibility on Dev.2, at least when I was active there and when you were working there, was pretty good in comparison to most of the other sites that were out there. So, a little flag in the ground for you there. I think you did a good job at pushing that forward. What it's like today, I don't know. I don't write as often there, but that will change. I'll be writing again there soon.
Yeah, yeah,
As
no worries,
for
no
the
worries.
battle, we could have a whole stream about the battle and where I think the disconnect is between accessibility as people see it and how they try and approach to get it implemented in a company, and how I think people should actually approach it.
Yeah,
But we said we might do a little bit of a live audit on stuff as well. So I'll let you sort of guide us which way you want to go. If you want to go into, how do you actually get accessibility on the table? That's something I like to
yeah.
talk about at length.
Yeah, well, I think I think it's definitely a good idea to talk about it. I definitely do want to jump into an audit. We don't necessarily have to audit the whole page. I do have a project we can look at, but I definitely want to kind of talk about, yeah, getting accessibility on the table, the buy-in, because without that, it's like it's a huge struggle. It usually means, and I have to give a shout out to my old coworker from Dev2, who's also my coworker at Netlify now, Susan Aitchison, who did a lot of accessibility work at Dev2, more than me. She's actually an accessibility expert, so hat tip to her. But these things seem to fall on typically just that one person that cares in an org where it's not in place,
Yeah.
and or a couple people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's normally that one engineer trying to fly the flag, and unfortunately, the flying the flag, Dev.2 was still startup, but decent sized startup. But if you try and fly the flag at anything smaller than that, you
Yeah,
get squashed pretty quick because you've got to ship, and there's 1,000 things to do, and it's a nightmare.
yeah,
The issue is it's the engineer trying to do it, is the problem. It needs to go right up. It's a top-down solution, not a bottom-up solution, accessibility. It's not like everything else, the DevRels exist
Yeah.
for a reason. We sell to the bottom and it moves up the ladder. Uh,
Yeah.
it's entirely different in accessibility because you need process to change for it to be effective. Otherwise, it's just a huge cost for the company. It's a huge pain in the backside. Every time
Yeah.
something's been built, all of a sudden they turn around and go, oh, what about this for accessibility? And it's another
Yeah.
25-30% of the time. And it's never going to work because business is
Yeah.
business.
No, for
So
sure.
I always advocate for have the conversation with someone at the top of the tree because a slight process change and a little bit of education
Hmm.
can vastly change the way that accessibility is approached without adding very little, if any, extra cost, which is
Yeah.
bring it in to the PM. Like the PM should be the first person leading it. The design team should be involved in it. And then the engineers should be implemented in an accessible way. Takes a little bit of doing, it's not something you can do overnight. But if you do it that way, it costs nothing. And then you can shout about the damn thing. And that's the way that I've always approached it. It's a
Yeah.
PR opportunity. Why not use it? That's a little bit
Yeah.
dirty in the accessibility community. I always get told off for that. But I'm like, how are we going to get
Yeah.
it done otherwise? We've not managed in 30 years any other way. Let's try a new way.
Yeah, for sure. It is tough, and like, I don't know. I think it was a perfect storm for me to be able to kind of get it in place at Dev 2 because like
Dev.2 is a
I'll
very, very moral driven and very inclusive place. So you had that big advantage there. But still, I imagine you had
yeah.
some battles.
Yeah, there was some. I tried Marcy Sutton has this packet NPM package called No Mouse Fridays, I think.
Yeah.
And I created a PR for it, and there was a lot of pushback at work, and not because the spirit of that what it would do. It's just a lot of the back end developers were like, I really just need to do my work, and this is kind of more, you know, in some ways a bit of a hindrance for them, and I understand. So like, that never got in, but like it's something you can do on your own. Just like, you know, it was easier to kind of do it if it is in place, because then it's like you have to do a lot of things to undo it. So then you'd be like, okay, I'm forced to use my keyboard now, and then you can kind of, just see what's going on. But it's but having said that, like I worked at up until Dev 2, or no, even at Autodesk, they cared about it. But before that, no place I worked at even cared about accessibility that I was aware of. And I'm guilty of doing div soup with clicks, back in the day, so I'm not going to be hypocritical and say I never did that. But I think this is kind of also where we talk about, having components, like if somebody builds an accessible button, the people who might not be the accessibility experts can, benefit from that, without a huge lift, and like, sure, it does, this isn't going to cover everything, obviously, but if you're working with things where the markup is, semantically the right choice, and somebody encapsulates that in components, already that's a big game changer. Again, doesn't fix everything, but
No, but this is the point. You can't fix everything. It's actually an impossible task. That's one of the worst parts of accessibility is you can never get 100% accessibility, even if you follow all the guidelines, even if you do everything right, even if you go above and beyond. It will never happen because there will always be someone with a need that is different to what works for everybody else, and you just can't facilitate that. So it's about doing the best you can.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's a there's a lot to unpack in what you just said there. The
Yeah, yeah.
the yes, the semantic HTML is certainly the foundation of most accessibility problems. But as I said, in my eyes, it needs to go a step back. Like designers need to be the ones who are actually driving it because their
Mhm.
choices limit your choices as a dev. So if they
Yeah,
decide that something needs to be all singing or dancing fancy and they've not worked out how possibly you could implement that, 25 divs appear because you've got to be able to have so many different positioning points. So it's
yeah.
a collaborative effort. That's why I said this is why it's so difficult. This is why we have this problem. And as for the part you were saying about people not talking about it, yeah, 100%. I'll tell you the very quickly story of how I got into accessibility. I fell down a flight of stairs That was it.
Okay.
I hurt my wrist, so I was working one-handed. I was looking up keyboard shortcuts for, like control sticky keys and all that because I didn't even know about sticky keys then.
Okay.
Um, and I fell into this world of like, oh, what about screen readers? Nobody had mentioned a screen reader to me in the world before while I was learning
Yeah.
how to develop software. So that became interesting, and then there was all sorts of things that went on that, and then we had eye tracking technology, and it just went on and on and on. I was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
huge, interesting, quite good fun. And I've got to show some feelings here. I get to do some good in the world, blah.
Yeah.
But no, for me, it was more the technical interest side that was the main driver, and then
Yeah.
everything else is icing on the cake and a bonus to me. And I always try and
Yeah.
approach it that way as well, which is, I think, the other reason that I often get people sort of scowling at me because I very rarely bring up the how many people it helps and what an impact on their life it can have. It's not
Okay.
anything I lead with often because for most people, it's a nice to have being morally virtuous. We all have day
Yeah.
jobs, we all have stress. So instead, I'm like, no, I'll make your life easier or I'll make your
Okay. Yeah.
company more money. Like, tell the people what they want to hear, show them the things that they want.
Yeah. Like again, like you said, maybe it's not the best approach, but it works. Like, hey, Mr. Evil CEO, I know you don't care about little Johnny who's in a wheelchair, but if you do this, you're gonna make $5 million more in revenue this year. Which I totally get what you mean. Like that's not typically how you promote something, but
I don't tend to call the CEO evil. It doesn't. It's not gone
yeah,
well
yeah.
when I've done that. I
Yeah,
learned
yeah.
after the seventh time of calling CEOs evil that was a bad
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. But yeah, no, it is tough, and it's like I think the other thing that I mean, we all, I have my disability is like I have glasses. It's not a strong prescription, but it is still a disability, you know. And I'm sure later on in life, I'm gonna maybe need a stronger prescription. Like even now, like when I use my editor, I zoom in, or like I bump the font. It's less strain on my eyes, and obviously that's not necessarily the same thing as somebody who's potentially paralyzed and has to use like a sip and puff or something. But like there's definitely varying degrees of it. But it's it nothing can really come bad from making something more accessible. Really. Uh, there's a
No,
time factor obviously and cost, but like I think those get outweighed when you have customers. So,
yeah, there are several arguments against accessibility. Let's sit on the other side of the fence. Let's be on the evil side of things.
all
Cost
right.
is the big one because of
Yeah.
the way that we approach accessibility. Yeah, every company sees it as a cost. The other one that I see often in terms of like the way people lead with it is, oh, it's a legal requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the worst framing ever. I think that's done them more damage than anything else because at that point you get your lawyer involved and you go, "How likely are we to be sued for this?" And the lawyer goes, "Nah, you'll be all right. You're too small at this point. Don't worry about it." So
Yeah.
that poo-poos that whole idea. Or you do the bare minimum. It puts you into bare minimum mode. The other argument against accessibility I always hear is, "Well, we don't have any disabled customers."
Yeah. Yeah.
And your stream's a non-swearing stream, isn't it? So I'll just say, how the hell do
No, no,
you
you
know?
can swear. You can swear.
Okay, there'll be. I won't swear too much, but I'll drop a couple when it's needed.
Okay.
But yeah, how the hell do you know? Like, how do you know you don't have any disabled customers? They don't
Yeah.
announce it when they visit your site. There are horrendous ways you can try and guess if someone's using a screen reader, but even then, it's like, why do you care?
Yeah.
And also, you've got survivorship bias. Like, if someone comes to your site and it's not accessible, they're not coming back for a long time. They'll go and find you one of your competitors who hopefully is. Problem is that's a
Yeah.
hard battle to win because there's not many of them. Um,
Yeah.
so those are all the things I hear. Or it'll take too long to train everybody. I'm like, no, give me half a day with them. I'll double
Mhm.
the I'll double how effective you are at accessibility. Like you won't be perfect, but you'll make huge improvements.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
oh,
hey,
Chrissy's
Chrissy.
joined us as well. Hey, Chrissy.
Yeah,
Chrissy
we
gets a
got to
double
it
welcome.
today. Yeah,
Talk
double.
about feeling like
But
royalty.
yeah, I I think the other thing is like there's you know and I'll preface it, like I know you've been working in accessibility a long time. I'm not an accessibility expert, but there's levels of like what you can improve as well. Like I was saying, like, you know, you're already off to a good start if you're going with like a button versus a div with a click, or like, you know, instead of some fancy JavaScript, just, you know, just use a summary, and, you know, like you can expand, collapse it. Like, and the thing is, there's so many new things that are in all the browsers now. Like browser development has kind of been moving a lot faster now. Like Firefox gets some help from Google, from the Chrome team. Safari under Jen Simmons, or I don't know, I can't remember her role there, but it just seems like a lot more is coming out of Safari now too. And so there's a lot of amazing things in CSS, and like, you know, there's stuff like the dialogue element and stuff. So there's a lot of things where you used to have to do a lot of stuff, and they're kind of baked into the browser now. So, you know, and I think just knowing a little bit, you know, like obviously you can become an expert in these things, but like, you know, and we'll kind of see this once we start an audit later, but you know, like simple stuff like, you know, add alt text to images if it makes sense, or, you know, leave an empty string if it's just
Yeah,
strictly
you see,
presentational.
this is where accessibility falls over because you're like, oh, here's a simple thing: add alt text to images. Well, actually, not all images because some of them are decorative. Also, you need
Yeah,
to know how to describe that image. Like, this is the issue. It's
yeah,
like everything feels easy, but it's like there's levels and depths to it. So it's kind of like break someone in
yeah,
gently to it, and then explain it to them as they get better and better, and then you'll have arguments
yeah,
with them later because they'll be like, no, I think this is the way, and no, this is the way. It's all
yeah.
opinion on things like that as well, which is also very annoying.
Yeah, and the thing I would say too, for like people who are trying to land a role right now, because I know the market is a little rough, especially for people just starting off in tech, or even people who might be looking for their second role or something. And, you know, when I used to apply for front end roles, they only ever asked about JavaScript. Like literally, like they would say build some, you know, here's a project, build that, but they would never ask me anything about CSS. They would never ask me anything about HTML, you know. And nowadays, like I can't speak to every employer, but like for Netlify, for example, like it's critical that you understand semantic markup, that you have some accessibility chops. And so like I'd say to the people who are trying to land front end roles, if you want to stand out, you know, get a bit of accessibility knowledge under your belt, and you'll, you know, I'm not going to say you're guaranteed to get a job, but like already you'll be starting to set yourself apart from the rest of the pack, I think. So just wanted to drop
100%.
that.
Oh, there's another thing I will add to that, which is, look, we know what tech is like. Anyone who's been in tech for more than a year knows that every week there's a new framework. Every week there's something interesting that you've got to learn. Oh, all of a
Yeah.
sudden your whole stack's out of date. Like, this is tech. It moves fast. Thing
Yeah.
with accessibility is it hasn't caught up to that paradigm. It's like the knowledge that I accumulated 6 years ago, 95% of it is still relevant today. Like, it moves
Yeah.
very slowly. So it's a skill that once you learn it, the value's always there. And
Yeah.
finally, if you want to get a job in like government, I don't know. I believe America's becoming quite heavy-handed on government sites. Like, you need to know accessibility stuff, but in
Yeah.
Europe and stuff, it's now mandated. Like that, you do anything for the government, your team needs to know accessibility.
Yeah.
There's flaws in that because nobody bloody checks the stuff, but still, steps, progress. I'm not
Yeah.
here to get on the high horse yet.
Yeah, yeah, no, I hear that. I hope it's like that in Canada, because like I'm in Montreal and in Quebec, and I remember, I mean, I do use government sites, but I remember at one point it was like, this site is best viewed in Internet Explorer 5.5, and like it just, that's the only way you could work in it. And like, you know, like the thing with that is already that made this inaccessible to a huge amount of people, like because you
Yeah,
shouldn't be, you know, like, and actually even when I asked you to come on the stream today, I told you you had to use a Chromium based browser, because like Video Ninja, which is what I use to bring on guests, it, I think there's some quirks when it's in Firefox, but you know, don't get me wrong, this is this is like a free project, so I'm like, you know, but it's, and I know there's other podcast software that requires Chrome as well, you know, so it's like, I don't know, going on a bit of tangent there, but
No, but you've got there's valid points there, which are important in the conversation. So it's like cross-browser compatibility, like that doesn't get spoken about much in accessibility, but it's important. The even
yeah,
more important thing, we were talking about CSS before, and it amazes me on this is people go on can I use and don't understand what the numbers mean. It's like,
yeah,
oh, it's 90% accepted. That's fine. It's like, yeah, but if that's critical to the page and understanding, 90% is useless. Like
yeah,
90% is not good enough. You need the polyfill for the last 10% or whatever you need to do to make sure it works. So yeah,
yeah,
we can brush over it and be like, oh yeah, this doesn't work in Firefox and I understand it. But they're
yeah,
huge issues, especially if I am a screen reader user. I
yeah,
would I might be very familiar with using NVDA with Firefox or something like that, and if I change browsers, it changes my whole experience. So
yeah,
I'm not shouting
totally.
at anyone. I want to be clear. I understand when something's a free project and you're doing it on the side. You can't be a back end dev, a
Yeah,
front end dev, market it, also know about accessibility and stuff. I get it, but
yeah.
these are things that once a company gets out of the ground sort of thing and starts going,
Oh
earlier is
yeah,
better
for sure.
if you can have the conversation with yourself.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up Can I Use because there's a new. I'm gonna drop a link to it, and I dropped links for folks to follow you as well because it keeps there's a lot of chat going on, so your links are getting lost. But I'm gonna drop this. It's called Baseline. It's a new project. It started with the Chrome team, and it's kind of like Can I Use on steroids. It's where it's really like you can say like this is a baseline feature that can be used everywhere. It's a super new project. But
Nice.
it's hoping to bring into the fold all the browsers so then people can use that as kind of like the can I use. It's more like I can definitely use kind of site, I guess. So
That's quite
it's
cool.
super
I've not
fresh
not
though.
heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super brand new. I think it dropped like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, but it's super super fresh. um yeah.
Well, there's one
um
there's one for my reading list. I'm gonna save that for later. There we go. Right.
cool, 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 cool. Um, but yeah, and getting back to the like accessibility in general, like I don't have any perceived disabilities, so like well, there's my vision I mentioned, which is not too bad, but it is a disability. But there's people that are paralyzed that use sip and puff, or there's like screen readers, like you were mentioning, and this is where like at least in my experience it's like I can only do so much as a developer, and then at some point it's like some manual testing of actual users is some like I know there's a company there, I'm sure there's several, but there's one called Fable that I know of, and so it's at the point where it's like, okay, we've built our site as accessible as we think we can, and again, this gets back to the cost you were talking about,
Yeah.
but it's still important. But then it's like, okay, well, let's see what happens when somebody actually uses the site, and you get like honest feedback, which is super helpful. I think again, I don't know the cost of this because I've never used it. It was something I wanted to do with Dev too, and we didn't get around to it. But just curious about your thoughts on that because like you can definitely automate some stuff, and we're gonna definitely look at some auditing tools that do some automated things. But it can't, at least right now, it can't be all automated.
No. So yet again, you say short sentences but pack about 400 different things in that I need to try and unpack. So let's do
Sorry.
the testing thing first. Yeah, that is an issue, is the if you want to go to the nth degree. The thing is that once I'm not a fan of it as the solution to it. I think when a company's transitioning, it's very, very useful because you won't have learnt all the nuances and tricks, and you won't have the person on your team who knows, oh, hang on, if you use a multi select, it's actually not as accessible as you'd think, or something like that.
Yeah.
So having the testing at the end, the real user testing, is great. But I'll be honest, it sounds terrible when I say it, but it's like a luxury. It's like that company has bought into accessibility so deeply that they are willing to spend the money. If you try and pitch that to 99% of companies, you're so far behind the curve on where accessibility is in their priority queue. You've already lost the battle. Like that's going to be the final thing that means they're not even going to look at it because you've put them in the cost perspective. So I'm a big fan of it, but unfortunately, I don't think it works practically in the real world. Like, unless, like I said, it's a very, very society conscious type company.
Yeah.
Um, so, what was the other thing you were saying in all of that that was interesting to me? Yeah, the sort of real world versus the theory. The ironic thing is that if you follow best practices and you follow patterns that have already been established, because most things have already been designed in an accessible way. It's a bit of digging,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because no one's brought them all together. But if you find someone who's already done the pattern, it's copy paste and keep an eye on your CSS. Like, it's that
Yeah.
simple. So I think that the need, if a company's as a whole is conscious about accessibility, the need is quite small there, because a lot of you will automatically start testing things with a keyboard just to check that it's keyboard accessible, which is a huge part of accessibility. That covers a lot of stuff for you.
Yeah.
People will be conscious of making sure that things are labeled, and if they're not labeled, they'll jump on the accessibility tree and go, "Oh, hang on, that
Yeah.
button's not got a label on it," and they'll spot it. So I feel like the testing at the end is a government-esque style doing way of doing it. It's always like the
Yeah.
tick in the box and everything. I feel like it's not as practical as people think, unfortunately. I think that
Yeah.
time would be better spent having training for the staff and getting the team, because the amount you'd spend on the testing, you could train the whole team to be better for the same money. You'd get a much more impact. At least that's my opinion. Yet again, very opinionated. I'll probably upset a few
It's okay.
people if they ever watch this, but
Yeah, no, well, like I said, I've never used it. It was something I was looking to see if we could do it at Dev too, but I've never
it would have
used it
been
anywhere.
great at the point you were. Like, this is one good use for it. It was on the map. You were making good progress. It's great at that point, because it's a nice wake up call for people of like, oh, we think we're doing a great job, and all of a sudden you realize that nobody can use your website.
Yeah.
That it is very useful for that. Sometimes the cold water therapy works well.
Yeah. But yeah, I do understand what you're saying, that like realistically maybe it's not something everybody's going to do. And again, I don't mean that to crap on the idea of doing it. It's just again, also I'm not an accessibility expert. I'm just talking about it, so like, just take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But
You know more than most, believe me.
um uh, but the yeah, so the thing you were saying though about like uh, um what was it? Yeah, you were talking about before about how like a company's like, yeah, you're tiny right now, don't worry about it. Like, Domino's was a small company at some point and they got sued eventually, right? It's like it it just seems like it's in your best interest to focus on it. Even like I think if you're like obviously you want it to be really good, but doing something versus nothing is already better than, you know
Exactly. Yeah.
you know, I know that's maybe not what an accessibility advocate might say, but
No. So this is the problem, because yet again, you're right. You will get people who are very much like, "Oh, it's all or nothing," and yet again, that puts a lot of people off, because they're like, "Well, I'm never going to know it all." And I can tell you from years of doing accessibility, I don't know it all. Like, I learn something every week. I was on a live stream with Emma Dawson a couple of weeks ago, and something that
yeah,
I thought was fine, she pointed out was not fine for people who use like Dragon Naturally Speaking or something. I thought it had been fixed. It hadn't. So
yeah,
you learn all the time. It's not a perfect sort of world. Sorry, that alpaca is so funny.
yeah. Sorry,
Um,
that's CSS, HTML, and a bit of JavaScript for people if they're curious. Uh,
oh, you didn't. Oh, so it's not made with CSS. I'm disappointed. I'm
yeah, no,
disappointed. I
it's
thought the line
CSS.
was
Yeah, no,
perfect.
I'm rotating the croissant on the PNG of the
No, I
llama.
meant you've not drawn. You've not
Oh
drawn the
no no
line.
no no no. Yeah, sorry. I have failed my streamers. Sorry.
Oh, devastated.
Yeah.
Um, I've lost track of what I was saying. What was I? What rant was I on then? I have so many of them. Which rant was I on?
I'm trying to remember. I got stuck into the llama drama. Sorry, it's not even a llama. It's an alpaca. Just for clarification, I can understand why people think it's a llama. But side note, but there's so I'm in Montreal. Montreal is a pretty metropolitan city. It's pretty decent. It's one of the big cities in Canada. But if you go out an hour outside of Montreal, like southeast, there's like alpaca and llama farms like all over the place, and people don't eat the meat, but they grab the wool. The wool is actually very expensive, and you can go on tours to see the alpacas. And this particular one, just the picture, like the way the fur is, it kind of looks like he's up to no good. So that's why I just went with it.
Well,
But
that explains it. I like the story too behind it.
but I was gonna say, I still don't remember what your your route was. But getting back to like, okay, not using Fable is potentially unrealistic for a lot of companies, but this is also where hiring diverse this is where diversity matters, like, hire people that, maybe have some of these issues, and then that can, because that's then it's literally a real user, it's a developer as well, and this is why diversity in general is important. And this isn't it is kind of tied into accessibility, but I'll go on a slight tangent here. But I used to work at an AI startup building chatbots, kind of like ChatGPT, but it was in Facebook Messenger. And at one point, we had a client. It was L'Oreal skincare, and so like the whole thing with the bot was to say like, what's your skin type, oily, dry, whatever, and then it would just start prompting you, and you would eventually drill down to some products that are recommended for you, and some things, and I've mentioned this before on other streams, but it basically, uh, because a lot of stuff that's trained in AI, like the models, it's all white people, typically a lot of white guys. And so like different skin colors, skin tones weren't taken into account. So like that affected like the products being offered. Um, it's not so much like the site is inaccessible, but what you're offering is inaccessible. And another example of this is, and I believe they've corrected it, but like the iWatch. So I have one here, and it's got this sensor on the bottom, and that's what, can take your heart rate and all that stuff. But they didn't take into account, what if somebody has arm tats, or like they have, darker skin, and it wasn't registering correctly. So like it's kind of like there's all kinds of things to think about,
Uh, I,
and this is
I
where the
give I can
diversity
give you
comes into
another
play.
good one on that that you'd like. So also AI, just
Hmm.
data set problems in general. They built this fantastic application that you could stand in front of a mirror in a store and just swipe, and it would show you what the clothes look like on you, and you could just and it would show you what the clothes look like on you.
Okay.
Someone came in a wheelchair, didn't know they were there, did it? Because it was trained on people who were stood up and everything. So it's like yeah, AI is a whole other, like we could have done the whole stream on AI bias data sets, like that would have been juicy as
Yeah,
anything.
that's a
But
whole other
uh,
stream.
essentially, yes, there are lots of impacts of minor things you don't think about, and it isn't spoken about in development, but you have quite a lot of responsibility, especially if you work at a large company. It's not so bad for a small company. The company can learn and grow, but once you're
Yeah.
at a large company, one change you make can impact millions of people, and we don't think like that as developers, and we should really, because it's both very motivating and very scary all at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, the issue that I see though is we learn about accessibility far too late. Like we've got and I'm not dumping on 100 devs at all. I want to make that very clear. I think it's a fantastic program. But in 100 devs, I went and did a 2-hour accessibility course. It was the most basic of basic stuff. And they were all blown away because it just hadn't been mentioned. And I was like, if someone like Leon's not mentioning it to everybody, where do we go? Because that's where it needs to start. You need to have the awareness of it. You need to at least understand what to look for.
Mhm.
You don't need to be an expert at day one. You're trying to learn everything, but that guidance early changes your whole thought. Because, like you said, semantic HTML becomes commonplace. It becomes part of your day to day. At
Yeah.
that point, you've already won half the battle, because then the rest of it, learning it, is a lot easier than when old dog like me already knew what, I was amazing. I knew everything. All of a sudden, realized I knew absolutely nothing, and I had to
Yeah.
relearn over bad habits, and that was a lot harder.
Yeah. And Anthony in the chat's saying this, in terms of like boot camps too. I think, they I
Yeah.
kind of understand to some degree why. It's like a boot camp has a fixed amount of time, and there's only so much they can teach you. And I've spoken to tons of boot camps people. I volunteer at one. It's called the Collab Lab, and it's, you work on an open source project, and it's this, and you basically, a lot of the way boot camps have gone, at least since I think 2020 or 2019, is it's like going to get you a job in React because React is very popular. A lot of people are looking for that. So that's what you learn. You might learn a bit of HTML and CSS, maybe, but and some JavaScript. But it's like it's so condensed that there's so much that you're just not going to get to. So I understand from a curriculum standpoint, and this is I it's tough to because you're literally trying to jam in a whole career learning in like 8 weeks or whatever. It's pretty tough, I think.
Yeah, well, this is the whole problem with boot camps, isn't it? They're trying to squeeze too much into too little, and a lot of them are just there to wring money out of people. Let's face it. So
Yeah.
there's too many. Nick, you're trying to get me to go on true rants, aren't you? And I'm just going to behave myself today. Like you've got me on so many things. I'm like, I want to have a rant about that, but I won't.
Uh,
I'll be good.
well, we can do a follow up and just call it the ranch stream, and I'll just let you
Yeah,
go off for like an hour and a half.
yeah. You could just disappear. You just wind me
Yeah.
up. Just say one thing. Like boot camps, and then you just go off and enjoy yourself, and I'll hold the stream for an hour and a half ranting.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, Xenomorph was saying because they're part of the collab lab. I can't remember if you're a mentor or if you did the collab lab. I'm still a mentor, but I wasn't able to lead a cohort the past couple times because I've just been busy with work. But we do we do touch on okay, collab TCL 56K. We touch on accessibility, but it's the kind of thing like again because of the time frame, it's kind of impossible to go in depth. But we kind of we kind of spot not spiral out. I don't know what the term is. Like we kind of go out like we have like talks there and stuff, so then somebody can dive into accessibility. Or we have some great people that work there like EJ Mason, who's an accessibility expert. So there's definitely guidance there, but again, getting back to the curriculum, I don't think it's possible to jam all that in. I didn't know what I was doing for years, and like I've been doing this for a long time now, and it's like it took a
You
while
still
for
don't
me to
know what you're
get.
doing. That's generally the
Yeah,
life
yeah,
of a dev, isn't it? Even
yeah,
today, I'm like, I know
exactly.
nothing. I know nothing at all. I know nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Jason's just saying on Twitter he can't hear that well because he's at work. It is going to be recorded, Jason. I'll reply to you. Um, and also,
I didn't even know we were live on Twitter. I'm literally just watching the Twitch chat. So,
oh no, we're not live on Twitter. It's just
oh, it is.
I'm multitasking.
Oh,
I'm
look
just
at
checking
you
out my Twitter.
multitasking. Blooming everything open. No, I can't do that. I'm bad enough remembering to look at the chat.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I forgot to preface it with you before I started the stream, but if I'm not looking at you, it's not because I'm watching cat videos on YouTube. It's like I have OBS here. I've got Twitter chat, Twitch chat, and like LinkedIn chat, and so it's a production.
It's
But
okay. I'm used to people not paying attention when I talk anyway, Nick. So I took no offense.
cool, cool. Well, instead of firing off onto a rant now, I thought we could. So we've been talking about accessibility a lot, and I thought, like for folks in the crowd, I think it'd be fun. I know you did one of these audits with Emma Dawson, like you said a few weeks ago. I caught that while I was gardening. I was touching grass and screen at the same time.
Oh,
Um,
mwah. Perfection.
yeah. But yeah, so I'm gonna switch us to coding view here, pairing view, sorry. And where is pair? Yes. Okay. And you can still see us, folks, and I'm just gonna zoom this in a bit. So I threw this idea to Graham. So like we want to do an audit of an actual site. I'm a fan of open source, which is it's an open source project. I contribute to it a bit and been kind of advising in some cases for certain things. But I thought it'd be fun because it's an open source project. I'm sure we're gonna find some issues, and then I'm gonna take note of them, and then I'm gonna create some issues. So not only if you're catching this stream, there'll be issues created. So if you're interested in open source, this could be also a great opportunity to contribute to a project. And I'm happy to help. Chrissy, who's in the chat, is also part of open source. There's my friend Becca. There's tons of people. But before we get into the audit, let's kind of talk about some tools, Graham. Like when you go to do an audit, like aside from like eyeballing certain things where you might be like, oh, right away, like because like I know like in some cases I can go right away. Okay, yeah, the color contrast is not good. Like if you can see it right away, then you know there's probably bigger issues.
Yeah.
Um,
But that takes
but
experience, like you said. So, like, let's start from a tool that people could use.
yeah,
So, the one I always recommend, and it's the one I use still, is Accessibility Insights from Microsoft. It's not often I
okay,
recommend a Microsoft product, but the reason being is it's a good accessibility checker that will run an automated report on the page you're on, give you loads of things to look at. But more than that, there's a lot of manual testing in accessibility still, as Nick was mentioning earlier. There's a lot of things we cannot automatically detect. It gives you
yeah,
guidance on how to perform those tests and has extra tools in there. So, as an overall package, I find it beginner friendly and professional friendly. So, that's the one I tend
yeah,
towards. The other
yeah,
one is you could just run Lighthouse. So, built right into your browser, if you got Google Chrome, you can run Lighthouse. It's not as good, but
yeah.
it runs basically on Axe, which is another accessibility checker, and it will give you some things to fix.
Cool.
But yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
drop
got
I'm gonna drop these things in the chat for folks to check out. I normally have these on buttons on my I have these tools installed at the moment, but I just want to drop
on your
some
pitch
links.
on
Yeah,
your Stream Deck.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I just forgot to put these ones on, but
I've got my Stream Deck here, but it only has 6 buttons set up because I changed PC, so it's practically useless now. But it looks pretty.
uh, okay. There's this is a tool I use all the time. Like I know it's baked into certain other tools, but I like the WebAIM color contrast checker. Um, if I just zoom this in a bit, what do you use for color contrast? Just out of
So I'm going to
curiosity.
get the name of it for you now. I actually have a piece of software built into the computer. I'm a Windows user, though, by the way. If you're on Mac, there is something already built into Macs to check contrast. I can never think what it's called. But let me find the name of this because it's by TPGI and it is literally color contrast checker. I'll share that in the chat. The reason this is so useful is Tailwind. So, Tailwind, in their majesty and wonderful thought process, introduced the idea that they would use opacity to change shades of text. The
Okay.
problem with that is you can no longer use the browser tools to check the opacity because we can also check it in Google Chrome a lot of the time. So it
Okay.
became a nightmare checking if the color contrast was high enough, and you were doing complex calculations that nobody could do. This lets you
Okay.
literally point at a pixel on the screen, point at another pixel, and it tells you exactly what the contrast is. So
Oh,
that is a
very
very
cool.
useful one. But
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
hating on Tailwind. I know I hate on Tailwind a lot, more than I should, because I actually quite like Tailwind for its own purposes. But that is one thing that I dislike. And if you're using opacities to change the shades of your text, I think it's perhaps better to revisit that and find other ways because you introduce
Okay.
a lot of work for yourself if you ever get into accessibility.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
And I don't know, I assume you're aware of that, Nick, but you should never make assumptions. Are you aware that within, if you inspect an element, you actually can have all the contrast information built into Chrome DevTools?
Yeah. That I forget when they released that. There's usually a little.
So there's
There's
two
all.
ways you can do
Where
it.
is it?
You can use the inspect tool, so top left, if you actually click the, it's like an arrow, very top left of the
Oh yeah. Yeah.
inspect.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
you can actually hover over an item with that. That's one way of
Yeah.
doing it, and it'll tell you your contrast. The other is you can literally, if you select any element, let's select that decline button because that'll be good contrast or something. That'll do.
Okay.
You
Here.
see on the color on the right hand side in the actual navigator pane in the styles panel. If you
Yeah.
go back
Let
up
me
to where
zoom
the
that in.
color's decided,
Yeah. I'll
there we go.
just
That's a bit
zoom
better.
this
I
in.
can see it now. So I don't know where
Okay.
color's actually decided on that there. If you click on the white square next to color,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you've got your contrast
Okay.
ratio, and if you expand that,
Yeah.
so you can actually expand that out, you get these curves, and the curves let you know if you're above certain accessibility levels. So it's really handy because you can
Okay.
see if you're good enough, and if you're not, you can play with moving your cursor around in the color picker until it's
Yeah.
above the lines, and you've got enough color contrast. It's really, really straightforward.
Yeah, I forget when they landed this, because I remember seeing this a couple years ago. I'll be honest, I haven't used this too much. I've typically gone to WebAIM because I'm just lazy, I think. But one
This
thing
is
I
so
like,
much faster. That's why. Because if you're
yeah,
looking at a site and there's multiple things, you can literally click here and just move it up and say, "I recommend you use this color." Like it within
yeah,
5 seconds, you've got an answer.
yeah,
Um,
and I like you got the color picker here, so then I can go ahead and like choose a color, and then you can see here it's already failing now for AAA. We we won't really go into the double A, triple A stuff, but that's what COG stuff, which is the Web Consortium Accessibility Group, I think. I think
I'm
that's what
sure it's
it's called.
content accessibility guidelines.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, this is super cool. No, you are right. This is nicer because it's co-located with where you're like where you actually are.
And like I said,
Um,
the curves are a lifesaver in the color picker at the top, which we can't quite see on the screen. The curves can
yeah,
really save you trying to work out because otherwise you plug it in 20 different colors trying to work out which one will work. You can just
yeah,
move it
exactly.
up.
Yeah.
So
Oh, this here.
no, so
Which
yeah,
curve?
if you scroll up a little bit because it's just off the screen at the moment. If
Oh,
you
oh, this?
select your color again in the actual color picker, so go
Yeah.
sorry, come out of it. I'm not explaining this very well. Come out
Okay.
of it entirely. Come off the color picker that you've currently got selected. Press escape.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, click back into the color, the white, the actual. Get rid of your. You've
Okay.
got your color picker thing still. Escape it.
Oh
There we
yeah,
go.
yeah. So.
So go down to the color declaration and click on the white square,
Yeah.
and then open the contrast ratio panel. And
Okay.
at the top there, you'll see now. Stay at the very top. So scroll back up to the top of that window. You'll see you've got
Oh,
your
the
two
wave.
lines
Okay.
now. So the wave basically tells you where the contrast should be. And if your point appears
Oh,
below it,
okay.
you're below contrast and you can just move it above the line somewhere until you found the color you want. And it's so quick and easy to then pick a new color.
Okay. Okay. That's
I
cool.
need to
I
work on
now.
I've worked out I need to work on my explanation skills. So I understand why that was confusing.
Well, in your defense, those waves weren't there before when I was messing around with it, so that's why that led to my
I
confusion.
know
Um,
it's one of the fun parts of trying to
yeah,
explain something across the web.
yeah,
But yeah, that is honestly that's one of the best things that Chrome ever introduced because that is an almost instant like, oh, I'm failing. Oh, I can change it to that color. Right. Suggest that to
yeah,
the team and then let the design department tell you that you're an idiot because you picked a color that's not in the color palette, but they can then pick one very close and you tend to come to an agreement much more quickly.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, um, yeah, and this reminds me too of because the thing is, there's so much stuff in the dev tools, like there's no way we can probably cover it all,
Oh
but
no, I know.
there's other stuff like there's the accessibility tree here. There,
Yeah.
it's always hidden, but the accessibility is always like the last thing over here, but it's kind of neat.
Sums up development, that doesn't it? The last thing on the
Yeah,
list is accessibility. Yeah, that sums
yeah,
it
yeah.
up. Yeah.
But the accessibility tree here, that didn't used to be there. I forget when they added that.
Not been
Um,
around long, about a year, I think, something like that,
yeah,
maybe 18 months.
um,
So
yeah,
this is super interesting for people who don't know what it is. So
yeah. Let's talk about the accessibility tree real quickly, I guess.
yeah, because it's not spoken about very often. So you've got your DOM, and then you've got the accessibility tree, and the accessibility tree is derived from the DOM essentially, combined with a little bit of the CSS. But that's overcomplicated. So let's focus on that. But what this
Okay.
does is a screen reader, all its job is to parse the HTML that you've created on a page and turn it into something that it can relay back to somebody verbally normally, and say like, heading level 1, and then explain what the text is in that heading. This
Yeah,
tree view lets you see the information that's fed to that screen reader so you can get a really good idea of if you've missed anything important on your site by looking down it and looking for buttons that don't have any text in them, because that means that when a screen reader user arrives at a button, they'll just hear button because there's no
yeah,
text the screen reader can use. It lets you know if you've got bad links. It'll let you know if your structure's terrible because you'll see that it's nested too deep. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you get used to
yeah,
it, it's such a useful way to very quickly go, oh, hang on a minute, I've got an issue there. Prime example, if you
yeah,
scroll down just a tiny bit, with getting down to, I'm sure, right. So, prime example, even though it's not actually an issue here, you've got section and main.
yeah,
First of all, main should never live in a section. Like something's gone wrong there, but let's ignore that.
Yeah.
If you have a section, normally you want to label it in some way because screen reader users, one of the tools they have is an ability to jump between sections. So most sections, not all sections, but most sections should have a name to them that it makes sense. So it may be hero section, kind of works,
Yeah.
um, our testimonials, and there are ways of linking that to the section element, which yet again, we probably won't cover how you do it today, but
Yeah.
why it's important. It's because screen reader users don't navigate the page like you and I. They don't scroll up and down. They'll jump around all the headings on the page first to see what information's there. Then they'll jump around all the buttons to see what actions they can make. Then they'll look at the sections on the page and go, okay, right, that's the section I'm after. So
Yeah.
it's not a linear sort of scroll through the page that a screen reader user would use. And this is why it's important to label everything as best you can, because then
Hmm.
they know what they're landing on. And this is why accessibility is such a big problem for most people, because nothing's labeled as far as a
Yeah.
screen reader user is concerned. I hope that
Yeah.
was a good
And
explanation.
no, that's great. And we will get to a bit of auditing, but I'm kind of, I think it's kind of good we focus on these tools right now. Actually, like, who knows?
Whatever
Maybe
you
if
want.
you're up for it, we do another stream, or maybe on your own stream you do another audit, but
So on
we
my side, just so you know, I'm gonna do, because you know my style, Nick. For
yeah,
those of
yeah,
you who don't know, like I get told off a lot on dev.to because I'm a bit too spicy over there. So I'm going to be doing some roasts of websites. So there'll be non-polite audits, shall we say, where I'll be
okay,
calling people idiots for stupid decisions they've made, but all with good fun, all from a place of love, really. But that's my
yeah,
style,
yeah,
so I will be doing
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So if we have any volunteers in the audience who don't mind being roasted and taking a little bit of gentle banter, shall we say,
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
be up for doing that. But yeah, let's
yeah,
do a tools type thing and like ways that you can understand what's going on. I'd love to show you the sort of accessibility tests people can do themselves without
yeah,
any tooling, just so that, or very little tooling, just so that they can understand whether they have a problem. Because that's the first thing, is you don't know whether you've got an issue. So we can
yeah.
do a very quick one of that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Bumpy Lumps in the chat, Alex is saying, feel free to roast their website. So,
Alex, do
so,
you have me on Twitter? If you do, drop me a DM. I'm up for it. So drop me a DM on Twitter. It's Graham the Dev. I'll send you the link now.
and will I definitely want you to show me what you were about to talk about. But one thing that's interesting too is like this is to help the screen reader. But say for example, we have a link and then there's an image in it, you know, and so like for example here, like this link is called skip to subfooter. If I had an image in there and then I put alt text that said skip to subfooter, you'd end up hearing it twice, right? Wouldn't you?
Oh,
Or
you
does
see,
it
yet again,
vary?
it varies. It varies.
Okay.
Generally, yes, but sometimes no. Also depends how it's been named in the first place. Has someone used an array label, or is it just actually link text? So it's all like,
Yeah, yeah.
there's
It
so much
depends.
nuance. It's really annoying to explain to people. Um,
Okay.
But the main thing is, yes, ideally, if you have a link with an image in it, you would just give the image accessible text. Like, keep life simple for yourself. That
Yeah,
image within there with an alt tag, that text can be used by the button because it can go up the tree to the button and it'll understand that that's information within it, or
cool.
link, obviously.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah. Cool. And that yeah, there's all kinds of nuance and stuff too, and like how you name things too, like you said. But let's continue on what you were talking about. Some stuff that people can use right away, and get some early accessibility wins that you were talking about.
Right. Let's do the tab test. So we don't need any tooling for this. So close
Yeah,
all the inspector out and everything. Let's
yeah,
find a site that go back to our site we were going to do a little audit on that we're not auditing.
yeah. Like we could. Well, this will kind of be part of auditing it, I guess. We can go over a bit if need be, but okay. So I'm gonna reload the page just to make sure that the first time I tab, it should go. Okay.
Right.
So
So this is a toolless test more than anything. Um, it's literally, you press the tab key, and whenever you come to anything interactive, you see if it's got a focus indicator. That's our first test. It's really simple. So you keep tabbing. Let's see. Okay, that's got. What about that bell? Did the
Yeah,
bell
so
have
the
a
bell the
notification?
bell is skipped and you can click on it. So already that's something we should take note of. Um,
Yes. So that bell, I'm
okay.
guessing, is made from a div. I'm almost certain.
Yeah.
So if we inspect it,
Yeah.
this is where the sort of experience comes in. It's an
Yeah. Okay, so
SVG.
it's a okay.
And I bet you it's in a
SVG.
div though, because there's nothing wrong with it being an
Yeah,
SVG, but
yeah,
it's in
it's
a
in a
div.
div. Yeah, so if we
So
come up a bit
it should
here.
probably be in a button, I'm guessing, because it's not going to navigate you to another panel. So
Oh,
it
you know
should be
what?
in
You
a
know what
button.
the problem is? It should be a button, but they're using type, and this should actually be role equals button, I
Still
think.
won't work because you also need tab index. This is the problem of trying to build
Yeah,
your
yeah,
own button.
yeah, exactly. So this is a great example of lean on the semantic markup. So if I had to change this to button, and also just this is another tip. If you're in the elements section of the DevTools, you can literally change the markup, the attributes and stuff in case folks have never seen that before, and you see it updated it down here. So now let's come back up here and like I'm gonna tab and then all of a sudden we can focus. So
And I bet you
already
if you press
that
enter, it might work even.
I'm not sure what it's supposed to do, but
Maybe not. They've obviously attached just a click handler to it, so ignore me. But a lot of the time, it
okay,
will also fix.
yeah, but basically already we've improved the accessibility with like one small tweak here.
Yeah.
Um, so okay,
So the
I'm gonna
next
take
one
note of
was,
that.
yeah. What's the best way of doing this? Because I know that Chrissy's here, and what Chrissy loves to do is she just grabs all the things and turns them into
Yeah.
issues. So that was handy the last time.
Yeah, Chrissy, if you're in the chat, feel free to take a screenshot. If not,
Not just Chrissy, by the way. Anyone who wants some green squares, I know some of you may
yeah,
be newer developers, and green squares matter. Go for it. Chrissy just is a monster who loves to just do all the things. You know,
yeah,
it's amazing.
yeah, and
Calling you a
anybody who
monster was not meant to be an insult, by the way, Chrissy. Not today.
yeah, yeah, and feel free to message me or Chrissy after, and we can show you where the project is and get set up and stuff. Okay, but see, already I like this, like because again, not a lot of accessibility knowledge, but already we've got a win there. So okay, so let's keep moving, I
Simple to
guess.
understand. So the next one, you're on a drop down there. So let's see if we can open it. So if you press enter, that's typically the key to open something. Right. So
Okay,
this
yeah,
is
so that
promising.
works.
So this the way this should function when you open something like that that's like a list is you should be able to use the arrow keys to go up and down to navigate through it.
Yeah, so it doesn't work, and I know what the problem here is because if you go on Dev 2 when you open your profile, this does work. So it's like there's a problem with the focus state, I think. So like,
More than likely. So this is more advanced to be fair, but you do have to
yeah,
manage focus. So when we open that menu, our focus is still on the button that opened it or whatever that element is that opened it. So
yeah,
what you actually have to do is manually move the focus into the element. And then also up and down arrows by default don't work. So you also have to then put event listeners for up and down arrows.
yeah. And if we look
Uh,
at this, okay, so they are links, which is good.
that is good, yeah. So they would be you would be able to focus them with your keyboard.
Yeah, I'm curious about your thoughts here. It's a bunch of links. Would you make those an unordered list or a navigation in there with like a named navigation, or is that overkill?
No, so this is important with navigation stuff. The reason that you use an unordered list in your navigation, because people are like, well, I can just put links together and style them with CSS. But the reason you put them in an unordered list is a screen reader, when they come across that list of links, it will say uh, list of links, 4 items. And that 4 items to you and me might seem nothing, but to someone who's
Yeah,
trying to find their way around a site for the first time, it's wonderful bit of information because it's like, okay, I know that I've got 3 stops that I can go or 4 stops that I can go. I know how much information there is to sort of consume. It gives me a pointer of where I am on stuff. So that's why we put stuff in an ordered list.
cool. Yeah, that was I was kind of throwing you a softball in there, but yeah, totally. Um, the but yeah, this and like Graham was saying, this is a more complex object, a component really. Um, but there are some things that do work. So like if I close this and tab again, if I click open, I press enter. If I press escape, it closes it. So there is some accessibility there, but there is some improvement still. Um,
The other thing is, if you press enter to open it, they could have implemented it the other way, which is technically accessible. Press tab now and see if it goes into it.
Oh, whoops.
No, it moves
Hold
away,
on a
so it
sec.
doesn't. That sometimes people do that. It's not the
Yeah,
perfect pattern, so to speak. It's not expected behavior, but it's still accessible still in a lot of ways. So
yeah,
if you're doing this on your own site and you've got something that opens like that, if you press enter and then tab and it goes into the item, that's fantastic. It's still usable. It's not the perfect pattern, but you're doing better than 99% of people anyway. So I'll give
yeah.
you a thumbs up as far as I'm concerned.
And
Uh,
we're seeing some love in the chat. Xenomorph saying, "Oh wow, learning so much from this." Appreciate the kind words because yeah, it's this kind of this is just a general thing, but like you know, I sometimes I forget about the things I know and I don't treat them as like anything special. So like I think it's good to show these things, like stuff that you think's run of the mill, all of a sudden it's like you've just helped somebody else. So it's I always kind of have to remember that. That's just a little side note,
It's the
but
other way. You don't know what you don't know. It's the opposite side of it. Like someone. It was only about a year ago I learned that hex codes for colors could be 8 digits. Like I've managed to go through
okay, yeah,
15 years of development without knowing that you can have 8-digit hex codes that include opacity. So until someone brings it to your attention, you don't know what to look for. So that's the aim
yeah,
today. Is just sort of give you ideas. I'm not expecting anyone to actually learn anything as such. Just
yeah.
sparks and things to think about.
Yeah. Well, things I would say is definitely give Graham a follow. He's always dropping some good knowledge nuggets, and also just like I'll be once the recording's up, I'll be dropping links to a lot of these things. So I encourage you to explore the tools. Maybe rewatch the stream to just see what we were doing in the dev tools because there's honestly so much stuff just in browser dev tools, and like we've barely even looked at the accessibility tools or chaos grenades as Graham said. Yes. Um, but one thing I'm happy about is they do have the focus styles, and this is something that typically not everybody, but a lot of designers will remove this because it's air quotes ugly and like maybe the default browser ones don't look great, but you can like it's CSS, so you can change these things, so you can make it look good. And I was just curious about your thoughts on this because like I know like on my own site I think this is okay, but like when I tab through things and I get the focus state, it's visually different, but I'm not necessarily using the outline. Is that something that you would consider acceptable, or should it always be a focus outline?
No, if anything, the browser focus indicators can be awful. So you can actually do a lot with making your own. There is, yet again, it's all nuance. Like for 99% of you out there, I'd just say, look, make your focus indicators pretty. Make sure they have eye contrast. They'll be better than the browsers. I'll praise you. It's amazing. There is a very bit of nuance, which is some people use user style sheets
Yeah.
and if you use outline in certain ways, or some people, for example, I've got some buttons where I actually use shadows to create the outlines because then you can
Okay.
animate it and it's pretty and you can do funky stuff with it. The problem is then you get issues of some people will have that switched on and off, and then do you have focus indicators? So there's minor nuance that, like, we're talking AAA level, getting things right sort of thing, but overall, you're not going to go wrong if you style your own focus indicators. They are a visual aid rather than a screen reader aid or anything like that, like a
Yeah.
non-visual aid.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. No, I just wanted to confirm that. I was pretty certain it was okay, but um, okay. Cool. So yeah, so just continuing along here. So like these are all links, and so yeah, these are all links too. So they have the focus style the same as the other ones. So that's all good. Um, okay, this is potentially a complex component. There's like tabs in the browser. There's no actual tabs in a browser. Like there's no tabs component. I know there's a lot of discussion around it. I follow Dave Rupert from Shop Talk Show, and
Oh yeah,
he's
yeah.
been he's been working with I forget the name of the organization, but they've been working on accessible web components, and I think the tab component is one of them.
They'll probably
But
also have lots of arguments because there's so many different patterns. We kind of have guidance on it, but yet again, people argue on it. So
yeah,
the interesting thing with that tab component, if you focus it again, So
Yeah.
our aim, if anyone's unclear, because it might not be clear, because I'm going quite quick on stuff, is our aim is just to make sure people can get to stuff with a keyboard,
Yeah.
basically with the tab key and the arrow keys. And primarily, we're looking at the tab key, but arrow keys help. So when you've got that highlights focus, can you? What's happening? That's weird. Can you
Oh,
press
no,
right
yeah.
and left?
Okay, yeah. Okay, they've got that
So that
into
is actually
account.
the recommended pattern. So there isn't actually anything wrong with that.
Okay. So that's good there. I guess the next thing is like if I tab. Okay,
Here
so
we go.
this.
So this is unusual for people because there's a rule that you'll often hear me and other accessibility people talking about, which is you should only be able to focus things that are interactive.
Yeah.
Yet again, it's like when we teach you when you taught at school, light only travels in a straight line, and then you go up a few years, and all of a sudden they're like, well, actually, if it goes into a medium, it might bend, and then they go up a few years, and they're like, oh, actually, gravity can also bend light. It's like you get taught an untruth, but it's enough of a truth to get you by, and then they keep building on it. So the
Yeah,
a
yeah.
general rule is if something is clickable or an action is performed if you were to click on it, you should be able to also focus it. The same is true in the converse, which is you shouldn't have things focusable that you can't click on. There is a difference here though. On tabs, you may have scrollable regions in them. So
Mhm.
when you have tabs like this built in that we've built in the browser, you should have the next stop be a completely focusable region because then it's scrollable up and down. So that's
Yeah.
why that exists. So it's actually this pattern's really good on the site that they've done. So your
Yeah.
next tab should take you down into the next section and it should be focusable because if there are any scroll bars, it means I can scroll it.
Yeah. And but this section here, because if I inspect this, it's okay. I'm gonna have to zoom out for a sec, just
That's
so
fine.
that we
Yeah.
just so that we can see things. Whoa, that's full zoom back, but okay. So if I do this again, let me come here. Let me just focus. Okay, so it comes here now. That particular element, if I inspect it, is okay. Yeah, this is the thing that I always struggled with. So like, I'll just to do it again. So this here, that whole thing is a link. If I zoom in the dev tools, you'll see it. It's a link to
Oh,
slash feed 99, whatever that is. But in that anchor element, there's more anchors, or there should be, or no, there's an article, and then it's almost seems like there's a link in a link if I'm yeah, and this the question I'm poorly
no, I know
structuring here.
exactly where you're going with this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
should you,
because
because like you've got a
people want to
card.
click the card. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what? There's arguments in both directions of what you should do. So a very strong and good rule that you should follow is that no interactive element should live with inside another interactive element
yeah,
because then you worry about what are you actually clicking on. What is the actual click handler with it? And that, especially for, like I said, people using assistive tech on the keyboard, that can be even worse.
yeah,
Um, However, cards are an unusual pattern. So there
yeah,
are tricks we can use. I would normally say actually focus the link within it because obviously it should only have one link really within the card.
yeah,
And you can use CSS and some tricks to actually use a pseudo element to cover the whole
yeah,
card and make it look like the whole thing is focused, yet
yeah,
you are focused on a link. That's one trick we can use. The other
yeah,
trick is don't make the card focusable at all.
yeah,
Um, Make it that you go to links. The argument there is this is where, like I said, it's a nightmare because now we're into how would we build this sort of thing. The
yeah,
argument there is there are a lot of tab stops within a card normally. You'll have like, let's use dev.to as a prime example. You've got
yeah,
the actual link into the article, then you've got the tags that are used on the article, then you've got the button for the comments, and you've got the button
yeah,
for the likes. So there's like for anyone to navigate that page with just tab, they've got to press
yeah,
tab like 12 times to get past one card.
yeah,
So the argument is how do you make that a better pattern? And the problem is we don't
yeah,
have an established pattern. To me, it's really
yeah,
obvious, which is if you're focusing that card, press enter and you go into it and you can access all the items. If you don't press
Yeah.
enter, you carry on past it. That's the logical
Yeah.
way to me. It means it's
Yeah.
2 clicks to actually click a link because I'll press enter to go into the card and then enter to follow the link. But
Yeah.
that to me feels like the most logical pattern because I can jump past hundreds of articles just by pressing tab.
Yeah.
Yeah, desktop user.
I'm curious because I actually built the feed. It was the first thing I did when I got there,
You've
and
still got yeah. Go on. Sorry, I interrupted you. Carry on.
no. I was gonna say I really struggled with like the card has to get focused, so we're focusing the card here, and then okay, no, then inside you can do like what you were saying. Like and the outer one I don't. It might have changed, but yeah, I think the outer one is yeah, the whole thing is a interactive element, and then oh no, yeah, sorry, the story has a body. It's separate. So the main part, the back end development is more writing endpoints for front end. That card, you can click on it and it'll go to the blog post. I think I'm gonna drop a link to it, but getting back to what you were saying about the focus styles, this is newer in CSS, but focus within would allow you to do what you're talking about.
Yeah, you can also do it
Um,
that way around. Yeah.
and I
Yeah, you're
think
right.
that's maybe
That's me with the old school thinking. Focus within is well supported now. You can use that. In fact, I do use it, but
yeah, I think that's what we ended up doing because if I come back here, like I said, it focuses there. Then the first one is that's a link to the article. This is to the organization. That's the person's profile. So yeah, I guess maybe the compromise we made here was so like if I come into the card, the first thing I do is it's the article, and if I press enter, I can go to it right away. Yeah,
yep.
maybe that's what we did. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Um,
So the thing is, this is fun. Yet again, we're going way off on tangents, but no, let's go back to it. Go back to it. I want
okay.
to tell you sort of the thought process I go through because this is why I say
Whoops.
it starts with design. Um, because I would be looking at those cards and I'd be going, right, okay, how can I minimize steps to get to the next one? Now, the beauty is Dev.2 does use J and K keys, which for those of you who don't know, for so loads of interesting legacy reasons,
Yeah.
um, I can't remember, it was some email client, are
Yeah.
typically used to skip between items. It's the same on Twitter, by the way, if you're ever using it. J and K, you can skip to the next whole tweet. So that
Yeah.
is there. It's a good pattern. The problem is this is like it's like the never-ending story, isn't it? The problem
Yeah.
is some screen reader users might want to use J and K because it's more comfortable for them as shortcuts for other things. So if you
Yeah.
ever put a shortcut into your application, you've got the nightmare of you need a whole interface to be able to change that shortcut.
Yeah.
So that's why shortcuts are a nightmare. So the way I'd design this feed is tab into it. If I press enter, it doesn't automatically navigate me to the next item. It would jump to the link to go to the article, and
Yeah.
then I would have all the other stuff come after it so that I can then go to the profile and everything else and the tags and whatever else I might want to go to if I'm in that element. And
Yeah.
this is the controversial bit. If I press escape, it goes back out to the outer elements. Like that's what I'd
Okay.
implement.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
we don't have
That makes
a
sense.
defined pattern for it, so it's not logical for people that might not be logical. But to me, that's the least amount of key presses with all of the same functionality and help.
Yeah. The yeah, I always struggled with the cards because it gets back to what you're saying. One, it's the thing is it's an it's a unestablished established pattern, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
um but yeah, there's just, and this is like, we're kind of not getting into the weeds, but this is where the things get more complex, and
Oh, we're in the
uh
weeds, but that's the fun
yeah.
place. This is what I'm saying. Like, if people wonder why I really got into accessibility, it's stuff like this sort of conversation,
Yeah.
because there are still things that haven't been worked out yet, and like you can
Yeah.
argue all day long about it, and someone comes up with a better idea a week later, and then you scrap all your work, and it's fun.
Yeah. the I mean, we've been kind of doing an audit to some degree, not as deep as I thought we would, but honestly, the conversation's really great, so I'm enjoying this. But there, let's talk about area attributes for a second, because I think
Okay.
this is, just because I'm throwing everything at you here today, but like obviously, you know, the rule. that I've always heard, and I believe this is true, is lean on semantic markup first. If you have something that's more complex, because like, you know, divs aren't necessarily evil. When you're making complex components, sometimes you just need these things to just based on what you're building. And like for example, if anybody's ever used, like if we go into, I'll just show it briefly, but and this was, I'd say 99% my coworker Suzanne doing this, but like if I go to one of my posts here, and let me just edit it for a sec, and then you just start typing. This is like probably the most complex component I've ever seen. So if I say at Graham, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these people here. There's a lot of things going on here, and this is something you can't do with just semantic markup. There's like area attributes, like saying like is the list open and so on, and so like in this kind of context, it makes sense. And we were talking about focus states before. You see how the cursor is in the editor, but the focus state is actually in here. Or there's a lot of stuff going on. And this is all open source, so if folks are interested in that, I can point to you where that is in the code to check out. But I
Don't
just
do it.
wanted to
Don't do it.
show
No, I'm gonna say to
that.
anyone, like, it will make you cry because that component there would take me 3 days to design, build, put together. Like, it's not easy. Like you said, it's horrible.
Yeah, and this is also side note, but we ended up using Reach UI for the more complex components. Reach UI, it's from the people that created Remix and React Router. They've got a good set of components. There's a lot of other great component libraries like Radix and several others, but I just wanted to show that briefly to just kind of give a very terrible intro of like area attributes, like when to use them, or like
Well,
uh,
let's go back a simpler step, which is what the hell is it in the first place?
yeah, that's
Because
even
then
better.
that
Yeah,
that all things flow quite easily from that. All it is a way, yet again, and I keep using screen readers because it's like the thing, like I said, I keep keeping things simple. Assistive technology as a whole, but screen readers, because they're easy to understand. It's someone who's got poor sight and they get
yeah,
the sight read to them instead of having seen it visually.
yeah.
Um, so what Araya does is it allows us to add extra information. So the way to think of it is like this: your semantic HTML. So if you put something in a section, that section will actually announce to a screen reader, this is a section.
Mhm.
What Araya lets us do is we could have a div and give it the same role. And then we could say this is a section, even though we've not used a section element.
Yeah.
The bit that Nick was talking about before about you should always lean on semantic HTML is the semantic HTML has all this information in it. Why make it hard for yourself? And it has some extra toys built in that you haven't even thought of. So use semantic HTML. When we got to that example there, which is like jumping from kiddie pool into the middle of the ocean, by the way, like we missed
Yeah,
some
yeah.
easier examples in the middle.
Yeah.
Um, what Araya lets us do is we don't have a component that says this is search as you type will open a drop down box to at mention people. We don't have any semantic HTML that says that. So we can use these Araya labels and Araya what's the word I'm looking for? Because if I say array label, it's array attributes. That's the word I'm looking for to provide extra information to assistive technology so that then they know what's happening if they're not able to see it visually. There's other ways to describe it in the code. See you later, Bumpy Lumps. Hopefully, you
Yeah.
catch the last few minutes of the stream as recording because
Yeah, yeah.
we're
We're,
already at
we're
the half 7 point. We should be stopping, but we're in the middle of a flow. So whenever you're
yeah,
ready,
yeah.
Nick, let bring us to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
end.
No, no, no. We can definitely go a little bit longer, but I do have to get back to work. But no, let's finish
I've
what we were
also got to
talking
cook.
about.
I've got to cook dinner over here. You know, it's 7:30 in the UK, so
Oh,
got
that's
to.
right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess like
um,
yeah, let's wrap up with area, and then yeah, we'll go from there.
yeah, let's use a simpler example because I think this illustrates it well. Mobile menus, because this is super easy to get your head around. Mobile menus are always hidden away, and if you've done it
Yeah,
properly, you can't access the information in the menu by pressing tab or anything. So you have one button that needs to open that menu.
yeah,
If you can't see, because that's yet again the easiest way to understand it, you need to know when you're on that button, is the menu open or closed? And when I press this button, what does it actually do? Because I might not know it opens the menu at that point. So we
yeah,
have Araya expanded. And Araya expanded is a way of saying, "Hi, I'm a button, and when you click me, I open something and I close something, and here's my current state. I am currently, if I say Araya expanded equals true, I'm currently open. I've opened the thing I control. If I have
Yeah.
Araya expanded equals false, it's like saying, actually, if you click me, I will open that thing for you. So it's got
Yeah.
state, and it also lets me know there's a relationship there. There is also Araya owns in that situation, which is saying, "Hey, I'm this button. I'm currently open." So we've got the Araya expanded. Araya owns says, "I am responsible for that list down there. We are related.
Yeah.
So if you press me, that list closes." So that's what Araya is for. It's for describing those relationships. And it's one of the biggest errors you'll see on websites is even if the menu does open when you click on it, if you go on with the keyboard, press enter and it opens, it won't
Yeah.
have the array expanded, so I won't know the current state of the button. So it's important to be able to know what's going on. That's what array is for. It's extra info. It's filling in gaps because we'd have 5 million HTML elements if we had to actually try and cover it. So it gives you that flexibility to describe extra things to assistive tech.
Yeah. And Xenomorph saying area is probably the most confusing part of accessibility for me. Um,
It's actually like, it feels very, very scary, but actually it's one of the simpler things once you get your head around it. The hard part of accessibility is knowing when to look for it and when to reach for it. But
yeah.
give you the simplest example. So let's say you have an element and you need to describe it to a screen reader, and it's very complicated. So you might have a button and it's got 17 images in it.
Yeah.
You can, instead of having to decide like, where do I add an alt tag and everything else and everything like that, you can add an array label to the button. An array label is basically just saying, please give this name and read it out to someone who's focused this button. That's all it is. So it's extra info. It's like any other attribute in HTML. It just means you can add some extra information for people. So I hope that gives you an idea of what it's for. It's
Yeah.
actually, like I said, once you get your head around it, it's really quite simple to understand. The hardest part is knowing which attributes you need to reach for. That's the hard part of accessibility.
Yeah.
And to answer, sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, Sinotech in the chat saying, "Are area labels recommended to you?" Sorry, I tuned in late. Yeah, that's what we were just discussing, Sinotech. So definitely catch the stream maybe 10 minutes before right now. And
In fact, I can give you a 15-second one on that.
okay,
Use semantic HTML first, and then if
yeah,
it doesn't have the information you need, use array labels to add extra information. There you go. Hey, welcome, Todd.
yeah. Thanks for the raid, Todd. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, and we're kind of at time here. I'm happy to chat another 15 minutes if you want to, but
Sounds like a plan.
which we can do. And honestly, like I feel like there's so much to still cover here. Like I feel like we've like literally just scratched it. Um, if your game, a little later in the year, to come on again, or if you're okay with me hanging on your stream, we could maybe continue the conversation some more because
That sounds like a great idea.
and I'll just give a reminder to folks, to definitely give Graham a follow on Twitch among other places. I'm dropping the links again. y- uh, but yeah, there's just so much stuff to cover, and but I feel like we've definitely hit a lot of great spots where like because like there's a lot of people in the chat have been like, oh, I didn't know about that, or oh, okay, that makes sense, or so I'm just really happy that we're kind of reaching some folks there. So
I feel like we've done the scattershot method, which is scare people to living death of how many things there are. But at the same
yeah,
time, it's like it's the awareness. We're doing top of funnel activities at the moment. We're making you aware of all the accessibility stuff.
yeah,
Hopefully, we
yeah.
can work on some details some other time, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I have no idea what this question is, but have you
Oh,
purchased Lucky
so
Asparagus
this is
yet?
brilliant. Yeah. No, I have not. So it looks like bamboo, but
Okay.
someone was saying I found out today that this bamboo that was a bit crooked is actually asparagus, and I was like, I
Okay.
found out today that this lucky bamboo, because that's what they call it, lucky bamboo is actually your thing. So inside joke
Okay.
in
Okay.
chat, I like it.
That's awesome. Oh man. Oh hey,
Um,
how's it going, Haxel? Yeah.
let's So, because we're coming to a close, let's do because we've gone rapid fire, completely confused people mode. Let's just overload them. Let's finish off with some of
Yeah.
the biggies.
Okay.
So, two things: color contrast. We mentioned it earlier, but we didn't mention why. I always like the why because if you know the why, then you go, oh, "Okay, now I start getting it."
Yeah. Yeah.
Old people. No, it's not just old people, but old people's the best example I have for it. When you get to the age of 60, the amount of
Yeah.
light that enters your eye is about 20% of that of someone who's 25 years old. And for this reason, the contrast between two colors reduces drastically. So when we're talking about color contrast, what we're talking about is higher contrast between items. Now,
Yeah.
the calculation for that is a horrendous equation, which is why we showed the tools earlier. Um, but that's why it's important. But there's an added benefit of the color contrast stuff, and we've all experienced this, guaranteed, which is bright sunlight on your phone. You
Yeah.
put high, Todd's almost 60. You're only 50, Todd. Um, you put high contrast on your phone. God, what was I saying? Right. If you get direct sunlight on your phone, high contrast sites, you can still use them. But in the old days, if anyone's old enough to remember when Apple went grey on grey and they started that whole trend that was horrendous,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
couldn't read anything the second you got the slightest bit of sunlight on there. So it really helps there. But because I like doing it, Nick, because we've done it a lot, there's a caveat with all of this, which is some people in the world hate high contrast and it actually causes them harm. So
Okay.
not only do we spend all our time saying make the contrast better on your site, you kind of need to build your site in a way where people can also put a user style sheet over the top and make it less contrast because for them that's more acceptable. So this is why you can never win at accessibility because you do one thing, think you've done everything right, and then someone else says, "No, but I need this," and you're like, "Oh, okay. What do I do for that
Yeah.
person?" So make your colors so
Yeah.
that they are site wide. Use CSS variables, or if you're using Tailwind, you'll be fine. That way, when they set a user style sheet up, it can overwrite those colors consistently across the site, and they won't
Yeah.
have as many problems.
Yeah, the sunlight one is such a good example of that though. And I have to just to give us this is not sponsored or anything, but I bought a e-reader for the first time last fall. Like, because I would read on my iPad, and it's perfectly good device. But it's very distracting because like I can go like, oh, I'm reading. Let me just check Twitter. Let me do this. So I was
Yeah.
like, you know what, it's my birthday, and so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get an e-reader. I'm gonna try one out. And aside from the obvious part, which is the other, yeah, aside from the other fact that there's all these other apps that are not there to distract me, I got a Kobo reader. A Kindle is just as good too. I opted for a Kobo just because I can actually take out library books on it. Um,
Nice.
but the thing that is super impressive about these devices, even though it's kind of lower tech, is the contrast is perfect. If I'm in bed, it adjusts and I can see it perfectly. I go outside like full, like, Donald Trump eclipse staring in the sun kind of thing happening, and I can still read it perfectly. And, it makes that device more accessible than my iPad if I want to read something, which
Yeah.
this, just getting back to the grays and seeing things, but
No, there's one thing you touched on there, and I think this will be a nice way to wrap up the stream and everything. Is accessibility is selfish, people. Like at some point, you're going to be in a situation where the accessibility stuff we do will actually benefit you. Maybe you have a child and you're having to feed the baby while you're also trying to work on a computer. So being able to use the keyboard with one hand, really, really useful. Maybe you break
yeah,
your arm. Who knows? Like there's 100 things that can happen to you in your life where you have situational and temporary disabilities. So be
yeah,
selfish, make things accessible so that when you're in that situation, when, not if, you can still
hmm
use technology and things that you want to use. So that's the sort of nice way of doing it. Is the situational stuff is a real eye opener because it opens up a
yeah,
market that isn't people with disabilities technically.
yeah. No, that is I like how you wrap that up, and just to reiterate it, Todd mentions in the chat, we will all be disabled someday. It can happen at any moment, and we've all had
Oh,
even temporary.
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was literally going to say I can attest to it because I don't consider myself disabled and I'm not disabled now. But for 15 months, I've had horrendous back pain because I overdid it at the gym one day. That's all it was.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
literally did it at the gym. Then I went to play squash a couple of days later, did my back completely. And if you do your back, it takes a long time to recover.
Yeah.
So I was disabled by that temporarily, and it was a very
Yeah.
long temporary. So it will happen to you. You know, like I said, you'll poke yourself
Yeah.
in the eye one day, and for a day you're gonna have to wear an eye patch. It'll be something and nothing, but it's how I got into
Yeah.
accessibility. It's why I'm passionate about it. We're all affected, and I'm sorry for
Yeah.
interrupting you because you were going to
Oh,
say
no, no, no.
something in then.
No, 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 no. I was just reiterating what Todd was saying there. That's all. Yeah. So no worries at all. Um, but I got to say, like, honestly, Graham, I feel like we could talk literally the rest of the night. I know you've got to make supper. I do have to get back to work, but this has been just awesome. Just love the chat. Loved all the folks in chat with all the great questions today. And we tackled, we did a bit of a mini audit and saw some things. So I'm
We
really,
really didn't. We really didn't.
yeah,
We spent 3 minutes auditing it in the hour and a half. We just basically just threw a load of stuff at you, and I hope that something was interesting in all
yeah.
of it.
Yeah. Oh no, thanks, Xenomorph. Yeah, I'm gonna drop links to all this stuff in the Twitch recording as well as the YouTube video. So I definitely encourage everybody if you're interested in this stuff. Yeah, good to see you too, Todd. Check out the tools like WebAIM, Axe Dev Tools, the web accessibility insights, and just even the dev tools. There's so much stuff. Check out web.dev. It's a great resource. There's so much stuff to do. And so much stuff to check out. But yeah, just want to say thanks again, Graham, and thanks everybody in the chat. There is no stream next week because I'm at a conference in Toronto. I'm at Refactor DX 2023. It's refactorconf.com. If anybody happens to be in Toronto, let me know and maybe we can meet up or something.
I've got
Um,
FOMO now.
yeah, I am Canadian Cinetech. Yeah, I'm in Montreal. Yeah, no, it's funny. Like I went to zero conferences. People think I've been to a ton of conferences. My first conference ever was RemixConf. Work sent me there, and then I used my education stipend to go to Render 8 Atlanta, which was amazing. And then now, this one I'm paying out of pocket, but it's a train ride and stuff, and so I'm gonna meet some people that I know there, and yeah, so looking forward to it. And oh, that's cool, Cinetech. I went to university in the Maritimes in New Brunswick. So go Freddie Beach. Um, Anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling here. Thanks again, everybody. And Graham, if you don't mind just staying on for a sec. Everybody else, I will see you on stream in 2 weeks. We're back with on August 2nd. I can't remember. I'm gonna drop the schedule here just to see who is on. Oh yeah, we're gonna be hanging out with Ramon. We're gonna get an intro to React Native with Expo. So definitely check that out.
Well, I'm not
Cool,
going to
cool.
miss that one. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I've never done any React Native, so I'm excited for that one. Cool, cool. Well, thanks everybody. I'm gonna stop rambling and yeah, like I said, Graham, just hang on for one sec and see y'all in a couple weeks.